Before today, I thought we were a normal family. Not perfect, no one is, but solid in that comfortable, predictable way marriages settle into after 20 years. The kind of family where silence meant peace, not danger. I see now how wrong I was. That afternoon, I left work early for once. My last patient had canceled, and it felt like a small gift from the universe. I remember feeling light, almost giddy. I texted Peter, "Heading home early. Don't tell Lila. Let's surprise her with dinner from May's." He didn't answer, but that wasn't unusual. He always had his phone on silent when he was grading. The sun was still up when I pulled into the driveway, the kind of late afternoon light that makes everything glow gold. I even hummed as I carried the takeout bags up the steps. I thought, maybe tonight we'll actually eat together without the TV on. Maybe we'll talk. But the second I opened the door, the air felt wrong. Not cold, just still, like the house was holding its breath. Usually, Lila's music was drifting from her room upstairs, some soft indie song I could never understand the words to. But today, nothing. No music. No dishwasher humming. Just quiet, heavy, and deliberate. I called out, "Hello?" My voice sounded too loud, like it didn't belong there. No answer. I kicked off my shoes, balancing the paper bags in one arm, and walked toward the kitchen. The lights were off. Peter's mug was still by the sink, half full of coffee gone gray with milk. He'd been home for hours. Something twisted in my gut. Just a flicker of instinct I tried to dismiss. Maybe they were napping. Maybe Lila wasn't feeling well? But then, from upstairs, I heard it. A sound. Muffled. Ragged. Someone crying. At first, I thought it was Lila. My heart clenched. I was already rehearsing the motherly tone I'd use. "Sweetheart, what happened? Did someone say something at school?" But as I climbed the stairs, the sound deepened, cracked in a way no teenage sob could. That was a man crying. I froze halfway up the staircase. "Peter?" Every step after that felt unreal, like walking into someone else's dream. My mind raced through every possible reason. Maybe someone died. Maybe his mother had another episode. Maybe he'd lost his job. But then why would he be in Lila's room? The door was slightly ajar. The hall light spilled across the carpet in a thin stripe, cutting across the shadows. I remember noticing that, how ordinary everything looked. The framed family photo from Lila's 10th birthday. The dent in the wall from when she'd accidentally kicked her soccer ball inside. Nothing out of place except the silence underneath it all. I nudged the door open, quietly, carefully. Peter was kneeling beside Lila's bed. His shoulders shook with every breath. On the floor next to him lay a photo album, the one we made for Lila's baby pictures. The pink one with little gold stars. I hadn't seen it in years, and then I saw him clutching it, pressing it against his chest like a lifeline. Lila wasn't in the room. Her comforter was rumpled, her desk chair empty. My mind scrambled to fill in blanks that didn't fit. "Peter?" I whispered. He didn't react at first. Just kept whispering something I couldn't hear. I took one step closer, and the words finally reached me. "I'm so sorry. I should have protected you. I should have told her." My throat closed. "Peter, what's going on? Where's Lila?" He turned, and I'll never forget his face. The color had drained from him. Eyes red, jaw slack, like a man caught in a nightmare that suddenly became real. "Mara," he said, voice trembling. "You weren't supposed to find out like this." "Find out what?" I felt a rush of adrenaline, hot and sharp. I dropped the takeout bags. They hit the floor with a dull thud, and the smell of soy sauce and ginger filled the room. "Find out what, Peter?" I demanded. "What's going on?" He looked down at the album again, flipping through pages with shaking fingers. Lila as a toddler, covered in cake. Lila's first day of kindergarten. Me holding her hand, smiling like I had all the answers. "Please," he said quietly. "Just let me explain before you get angry." "Explain what?" I snapped louder than I meant to. "Where is she?" He pointed to the hallway. "She's at the park." She needed space. Space from what? His lips parted, but no words came out. His eyes filled again, overflowing this time. I'd seen him cry before, funerals when his father died, but this was different. This was guilt. Peter, I said, softer now, stepping closer. You're scaring me. He shook his head, pressing the album to his face. I tried, Mara. I really tried to keep her safe. Safe from what? He finally looked at me and I saw something collapse inside him. From you, he whispered. It was like a gunshot in my chest. For a second, I couldn't breathe. The words didn't make sense. I wanted to laugh, to scream, to deny it. Me? The woman who worked 12-hour shifts to pay for her private school? Who stayed up all night sewing her prom dress because we couldn't afford the one she wanted? What are you talking about? I managed to say. He just kept whispering. I should have told you. I should have told you. My mind was spinning. Told me what? But he didn't answer. He just broke down, sobbing into his hands like a child. I stood there, numb, staring at the photo album lying open on the carpet. On the page, there was a picture of Lila at around 10, grinning, holding her science fair ribbon. I remember that day. She'd begged me to come to the school early, but I was on a double shift. Peter took the picture instead. For the first time, I noticed something else in the corner of the photo. A girl next to her, smirking. I never paid attention before. And suddenly, that familiar ache in my chest returned, the one I'd been ignoring for years. The distance. The quiet dinners. The way Lila stopped talking to me about her life. Peter's voice broke through my fog. She's been hurting for years, Mara, and I thought if I could handle it, you wouldn't have to. I thought I was protecting you both. I wanted to scream. Protect me? From my own daughter? But instead, I stood there in the half-light of our daughter's room, surrounded by relics of her childhood, feeling like I was seeing ghosts. The man I loved, broken on the floor. The daughter I thought I knew, a stranger somewhere out there. And me, completely blind to it all. Before I could speak again, Peter looked up, eyes hollow. It's about what happened to her. What I hid from you. He reached for the album again, flipping to a blank page tucked in the back. Something was written there, in Lila's handwriting. Just 2 words, don't tell. My stomach dropped. That's when I realized I wasn't the one asking questions anymore. I was about to hear answers that would change everything. For a long moment, I just stared at those 2 words, don't tell. They looked so small, so childish, written in my daughter's looping handwriting. Yet they cracked something enormous open inside me. Peter sat back on his heels, face pale and swollen from crying. When he finally spoke, his voice was so low I could barely hear it. It started 3 years ago, he said. When she was 13, my stomach clenched. Started what? He ran a hand through his hair, trembling. You remember when Lila suddenly begged us to switch schools? Said she hated Lincoln Middle? I nodded, of course. I thought it was just teenage drama, some mean girls or whatever. You told me it wasn't serious. He nodded miserably. I lied. The word lied hung there between us, sticky and heavy. She was getting bullied, he continued. At first it was just teasing. Then someone hacked her social media, posted pictures of her, edited ones. Cruel stuff, rumors. They called her names. His voice cracked. There were photoshopped images. Disgusting ones. My knees gave out. I sat on the edge of the bed, gripping the comforter to steady myself. You're telling me our daughter was humiliated online and you didn't tell me? He looked up, tears glistening. You were working double shifts. You were barely sleeping. You were breaking down from exhaustion. I couldn't add one more thing to your plate. That was my plate to carry, I snapped. My child. My responsibility. I was trying to protect you both, he said desperately. You were drowning, Mara. I thought if I could handle it quietly, talk to the school, block the accounts, transfer her, it would be over. I felt sick. My hands were shaking. And was it over? He didn't answer, and I already knew. The silence between us filled with the sound of years I couldn't get back. The nights I worked until dawn. The mornings I missed breakfast. The weekends I told Lila, next time, sweetheart. Mom's just too tired. I saw it all now. Flickering like old film reels. Lila at 12, sitting at the kitchen table with her head down, pretending to do homework. The way she flinched when her phone buzzed. The way she stopped wearing her favorite dress after that one picture day. How long? I asked. Peter swallowed hard. A year. Maybe more. And you never told me? He shook his head. She begged me not to. She said she didn't want you to see her differently. She said she wanted to be strong, like you. That shattered me. Because I could picture it perfectly. My daughter crying in her room while I came home smelling like antiseptic, praising her for being resilient. I thought I was teaching her strength, I whispered. But all I was teaching her was silence. Peter reached for me, but I jerked away. Don't, I said. Don't touch me right now. His voice cracked again. I thought I was doing the right thing. You were already so brittle back then. You'd come home and cry in the shower so no one would hear. I just wanted to protect you by lying? I shouted. By letting our daughter suffer alone while you played hero? You didn't protect us, Peter. You isolated us from each other. Tears burned my eyes. My throat ached with all the words I hadn't said in years. That's when I heard the front door open. Light footsteps, Lila's voice, quiet but firm. Mom? I turned. She was standing in the doorway, soaked from the drizzle outside, her hair plastered to her face. Her eyes darted between us. She must have heard everything. For a second, none of us spoke. Then Peter whispered, Lila, sweetheart. She cut him off. You told her. Her voice wasn't angry. Just hollow, Peter nodded. She had to know. I told you not to, she said softly. You promised. I stood, my pulse pounding. Lila, please. Why would you want to hide something like that from me? She looked at me then, eyes shining with tears, and I swear she looked older than 16. Because you always said you couldn't handle more stress. You'd come home so tired you could barely talk. Dad told me you were trying to keep it together. I didn't want to be the thing that broke you. Those words sliced through me like a knife. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My daughter, the one person I'd been working myself to the bone for, had been protecting me, she went on, her voice trembling. When it got bad, I told Dad. He fixed it. He talked to the school. He made it stop. I thought we could just move on. She wiped her face roughly, but I never did. I still see it, Mom. The pictures. The comments. It doesn't go away. Peter reached out, his hand trembling. I was trying to make things better. She spun on him. You made me lie! Every time she asked how school was, I had to smile. Every time she said she was proud of me, I wanted to scream. You think that was protection? It was torture. Her voice broke and the dam inside me snapped. I crossed the room and pulled her into my arms. For the first time in years, she didn't stiffen. She just cried, deep, shaking sobs that soaked through my blouse. I'm so sorry, I whispered over and over. I should have been there. I should have seen it. Behind us, Peter's voice was barely a whisper. You think I didn't suffer too? Watching both of you fall apart from opposite sides of the same wall? I turned on him, still holding Lila. You chose that wall, Peter. You built it. He looked destroyed, tears streaming down his face. I did it for love. I met his eyes, voice trembling with fury. Love without truth isn't love, it's cowardice. The room fell silent. The only sound was Lila's quiet breathing against my chest. Finally, she stepped back, wiping her eyes. You both kept pretending everything was fine. You both left me alone. She wasn't wrong. The realization hit hard. Peter with his secrets, me with my absence. We'd failed her in two different ways. I couldn't stay another second. The air felt poisonous. I need to go, I said. Grabbing my keys. Mara, please, Peter started. But I didn't let him finish. I stormed down the stairs, the sound of rain beating against the windows growing louder. Outside, the world smelled like wet asphalt and cold metal. I got in the car, hands trembling on the steering wheel. For a few seconds, I couldn't even start the engine. I just sat there, heart pounding, replaying everything. Lila's voice, Peter's lies, my own blind devotion to survival. When I finally drove, I didn't know where I was going. The rain came harder, blurring the road ahead until it looked like the world itself was weeping. As the wipers thudded back and forth, I thought about the word protection. How we use it like a shield. Protect your kids from pain. Protect your marriage from stress. Protect yourself from guilt. But really, it's just another word for fear. We didn't protect each other. We protected our own illusions. By the time I pulled over on a deserted side street, my face was wet. Not just from tears, but from the realization that I'd built my whole life around avoidance. Avoiding pain, avoiding truth, avoiding myself. I rested my forehead on the steering wheel and let out a sound I didn't recognize, somewhere between a laugh and a sob. That night, sitting alone in the rain, I finally understood something cruel and clear. Silence hadn't just been our family's mistake. It had been our language. It took me 3 days to come back. 3 days of driving to nowhere. Empty parking lots, old roads lined with yellow leaves, a small lake I hadn't visited since college. I didn't call. I didn't text. I just sat with the ache, letting it turn into something clearer, quieter. When I finally came home, the air felt different. Not tense, not forgiving, just real. The front door creaked the same way it always did, but for once it didn't sound like a complaint. It sounded like permission. Lila was in the kitchen, sitting at the table in her pajamas, scrolling on her phone. She looked up when she heard me, eyes cautious but not cold. For a heartbeat, I saw her as she was at 5. Pigtails, jelly stains on her cheeks, looking to me for answers. I set my keys down and sat across from her. "Hey!" She didn't respond, just studied my face like she wasn't sure which version of me had walked through the door. The tired nurse? The angry wife? The ghost of a mother who didn't notice? I took a breath. "You don't have to talk," I said softly. "I just need you to hear this." Her eyes flicked up. "I'm sorry," I began, my voice trembling. "Not just for missing the signs, but for teaching you that love only counts when you're strong." That was never true. You don't have to be strong to be loved. You just have to be here. Her chin wobbled. I reached across the table, but this time I waited. She hesitated, then placed her hand in mine. We didn't say much after that. Just sat in the quiet, the good kind this time, the kind that makes space, not walls. When she finally started crying, I cried with her. No explanations, no fixing. Just two people learning how to speak again. Later that evening, when she went to her room, I found Peter in the den. He was sitting on the couch, the photo album open beside him. His eyes darted up when he saw me, bracing for a storm that wasn't coming. "I thought you'd never come back," he said quietly. "I almost didn't," I admitted, but running away felt like just another kind of silence. He nodded, hands clasped tightly. "I don't know how to make this right." "You can't," I said simply. "Neither can I, but we can stop pretending we already have." He exhaled, shoulders sagging. "I deserve your anger." "I'm not here to give you anger," I said. "I'm here to give you terms." That got his attention. "I won't live in a home built on secrets," I continued. "Not anymore. So here's what happens next. We get help, real help, family therapy, couples therapy, whatever it takes. Or I move out. You decide which kind of silence you want to live with." He stared at me, stunned. "You're serious?" "For the first time in years," I said. There was no shouting, no begging, no dramatic music. Just truth, simple and steady. I could see the shift in his eyes, the realization that this wasn't a woman on the verge of breaking. It was a woman who'd already broken and rebuilt herself. After a long silence, he nodded. "Okay," he whispered. "Therapy. Together." I stood there for a moment, letting the words settle. "Good," I said. "Because this family deserves a chance to learn a new language." He looked confused. "A new language?" "Yeah," I said softly. "One that isn't made of silence." That night I made dinner. Just pasta and salad, nothing fancy. Lila came downstairs on her own. Peter set the table. No one said much, but there were no phones, no distractions. When Peter accidentally spilled water, Lila laughed. A small, fragile sound, but it was enough to make my eyes sting. As we ate, I noticed how the light fell across the kitchen, the same place where years of distance had built up like dust. Now it felt almost clean. Not perfect, but honest. In the days that followed, we took small steps. We started therapy. Lila began journaling again. Peter stopped trying to fix things and started listening. And me? I stopped apologizing for being tired and started learning how to rest. One morning, Lila left a note on the counter. Thanks for staying. It wasn't forgiveness. It was something better, hope. Sometimes late at night, I still think about that day I came home early from work. The smell of takeout, the sound of crying, the way my world cracked open in the quietest of moments. I used to think it was the day everything fell apart. But now I know better. That day, I came home early and found my husband crying in our daughter's room. I thought I'd walked in on a tragedy. Turns out, it was the start of our honesty. Families don't fall apart because of pain. They fall apart because of what we hide. Comment. What would you have done? Would you have forgiven him or walked away? Subscribe for more stories of hidden family truths, redemption, and emotional courage.